Imagine waking up tomorrow to find out the single most watched sporting event in human history was just quietly packaged up and sold off in a secret boardroom. It sounds like the plot of a corporate thriller, right? Well, it actually almost happened. A highly confidential financial proposal nearly handed the global game over to private equity. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to unpack exactly how close football came to the edge. For over 90 years, the World Cup has essentially belonged to the sporting public. But recently leaked documents force us all to ask a really uncomfortable question, one that sent absolute shockwaves through the global football community. Is the World Cup for sale? To billions of fans, this tournament is about national pride, history, and pure sporting merit. So the idea that its future could be dictated by private shareholders, that represents a fundamental, radical shift in how the world experiences its favorite sport.
And that question is tied to a staggering figure, $20 billion. Let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a lucrative sponsorship here or a standard TV broadcasting deal. This was a structural buyout that threatened to permanently alter international football governance overnight. We're going to break down exactly what a $20 billion injection actually means for the sport, who the hidden players were behind the scenes, and how this astronomical number triggered a massive, unprecedented rebellion. All right, let's get into the $20 billion secret and how this confidential plan eventually leaked.
The suspense behind this whole operation is just incredible, mostly because this was a plan years in the making. It all started way back in 2018 in Bogotá, Colombia. That's when FIFA President Gianni Infantino initially pitched Project Trophy, which was this massive $25 billion overhaul. Now, that initial concept got pushed back, but the idea never really died. Behind the scenes, for over 8 years, secret negotiations were happening with highly motivated outside investors. We're talking about a consortium led by Joshua Kushner, backed by the heavy financial firepower of JP Morgan. The public was totally in the dark until July 2026, when this explosive blueprint finally hit the press.
So let's look inside FIFA Forward Enterprise to understand the actual proposition. You have to remember, FIFA is fundamentally a non-profit global governing body. So to invite massive outside investment, they needed a corporate loophole. Enter FFE, or FIFA Forward Enterprise. This proposed subsidiary was explicitly designed to handle all the commercial and operational delivery of the World Cup and other major events. By moving these incredibly valuable assets into a brand new, separate corporate entity, FIFA could legally sell off pieces of it to private capital. All while publicly claiming, of course, that this was simply an innovative way to democratize wealth for smaller nations. Now, to be fair, it wasn't a total sell-off. FIFA would permanently retain 80% control, but by giving up just a 1/5 stake, 20%, to those private investors, they would immediately raise $4.2 billion in upfront cash. For the organization's leadership, this was seen as a historic influx of capital that would theoretically let them supercharge the sport's global footprint without technically losing their majority voting rights. But to push this massive structural shift through, FIFA needed the support of a majority of its 211 member associations. And how do you secure those votes? You offer a seriously incredible temptation. Under the proposal, every single member association would get $20 million in development funding over the next 4 years, plus an additional, optional $20 million one-off payout called Fast Forward. To a massive European nation, sure, $40 million might be a rounding error. But to a small island nation or a developing country that relies entirely on FIFA grants, that is life-changing, generational money. It was literally the ultimate leverage. But that leverage sparked a massive backlash. Let's look at the European boycott threat, where ideologies truly collide. We basically had two contrasting philosophies, fiercely dividing the sport. On one side, FIFA is framing this plan as financial democratization, a necessary, modern step to share the wealth and elevate smaller nations who historically get left behind. On the flip side, UEFA, the governing body of European football, viewed it as literally mortgaging the sport's soul. They argued that bringing private equity into the fold would mean every future decision, tournament formats, host cities, broadcasting rights, would be driven by what best serves Wall Street shareholders, not what best serves the fans or the actual players. And this ideological clash led all 55 of UEFA's national associations to do something highly unusual. They unified in a massive, aggressive move, a united threat to completely boycott FIFA competitions. Think about what that actually means in reality. A World Cup without France, England, Spain, Italy, or Germany. No Kylian Mbappe, no Jude Bellingham, no Lamine Yamal. A tournament missing half of its global audience and prestige. Europe was basically promising to completely torch the value of the competition if this sale went through. UEFA drew a hard, uncompromising line in the sand. Their official statement was just crystal clear. The World Cup is not for sale. To Europe, the tournament isn't just some line item on a profit and loss sheet. It's an untouchable cultural heritage built over generations, which is fundamentally incompatible with the daily return expectations and aggressive monetization strategies of private equity investors.
The pressure wasn't just external, though. We also have to talk about the internal mutiny, a full-blown rebellion inside Zurich. Yeah, the betrayal didn't just come from rivals. It came from the very top, inside FIFA's own headquarters. Take Carlos Cordero. He wasn't just anyone. He's a former banker, ex-US Soccer Federation vice president, and Gianni Infantino's hand-picked senior advisor. His immediate resignation the second the news broke was a devastating blow to the project's credibility. As an ultimate insider, his scathing statement warning that giving away a permanent stake would dangerously mortgage football's future, that validated every single fear the critics had. Plus, critics inside the organization just pointed to the basic, undeniable math. Think about it. If you have just generated a record $15 billion in your latest World Cup cycle, and you are sitting on massive cash reserves with absolutely zero debt, why on earth would you sell off 20% of your crown jewel to a private equity firm? For the internal financial experts, surrendering permanent equity in future profits when the organization is already incredibly solvent just flat out didn't make any sense. Then, the internal crisis hit an absolute boiling point. FIFA's own chief operating officer, Kevin Lamour, actually broke protocol to speak directly to the press. He publicly accused Infantino of keeping the professional staff completely in the dark regarding these year-long negotiations, explicitly calling it the project of one person. In a massive global bureaucracy like FIFA, a COO publicly attacking the sitting president is an insane display of corporate insubordination. The house was essentially burning down from the inside. Which brings us to the grand finale, the 96-hour collapse and Infantino's capitulation. In a stunning 96-hour window, this entire $20 billion deal completely imploded. It's wild. On Tuesday, the secret media leak breaks the story wide open. By Thursday, Europe mounts its unanimous threat of a total boycott, threatening to ruin the tournament. By Friday morning, Infantino's top executive advisor quits in protest, signaling absolute internal chaos. And by Friday evening, recognizing the catastrophic and irreversible damage to his leadership, the proposal is pronounced completely dead. The speed of the unraveling was breathtaking. Facing an unwinnable war and severe threats to his presidency ahead of the upcoming 2027 elections, Infantino chose self-preservation. He officially scrapped the entire FFE plan. His public statement noted that the project had created divisions that are no longer in the interest of the objective. Let me translate that from corporate PR for you. He realized pushing this through would inevitably cost him his job. A $20 billion overhaul, meticulously planned in the shadows for years, literally evaporated in mere days to save a political career. So, the FFE proposal may be dead, but the commercial pressures circling the world's most popular sport, those are only growing. With billions still hovering on the sidelines, is this simply the first battle in a much longer war for the soul of the game? Can global football resist the pull of private equity forever? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.
That's all for today. Goodbye. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.